Oh.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome back.
We're back.
Episode 3. So
Sweet.
introducing ourselves, let's introduce ourselves really quickly to the people who might be tuning in for the first time. I'm Nate Bagley. I'm the host of the Loveumentary podcast, and the Today's Mama crew has generously given us permission to live stream our episodes this season on their Facebook page. And I'm here with my co-host, Kristin Hodson.
Hi.
Who is a licensed clinical social worker.
And AASECT certified sex therapist.
AASECT certified sex therapist. And she is the bomb.
We love, no, and well, thanks.
You're
Oh
welcome.
my God, I'm going to just skip over that. But no, we're thrilled to be here, and we're excited to keep building on our episodes. They're separate, they're individual, but in the same sense, the skills that you've gotten in our prior episodes will really help you.
They build
throughout the season.
Yep. So today I'm really excited about our topic because
they build kind of like sexual energy.
Yeah. The first episode we talked about how to talk to your partner about sex.
Yes.
The second episode we talked a little bit about orgasm and how to become more familiar and comfortable with experiencing an orgasm. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how your body adapts after you have a baby, and what happens to your libido and what happens to your body. And there's just a lot of myths that revolve around having babies and having sex and what's supposed to happen and when and how you're supposed to be feeling. And I think it's just a really emotional and complicated kind of time in your life. There's a lot going on. You're adding a dynamic to a person to your family.
There's a lot of transition. There's a lot of transition because you're transitioning as a couple from no kids to one child, and the dynamic there. You're also transitioning into new identities of who am I as a mother, who are you as a father, and how do we work together now in that realm. We may have learned how to somewhat manage being partners pre-kids. So there's a lot.
Yeah, I heard this really interesting thing this week that every time you add a kid to or a person to your family, the number of relationships combinations exponentially increases.
Yeah,
so like when it's just you and your partner, there's like 3 relationships. You've got your relationship with yourself, your partner has their relationship with themselves, and you have your relationship together. You add a kid, and the kid has a relationship with you, with your wife, and then with the 2 of you together, and with themselves, and it just keeps expanding and expanding. So adding this person to your life can really complicate things. Plus, like you said, your role changes.
Yeah.
And
there's just a lot going on.
And I'm sure in your body goes through drastic changes, which I'm sure I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, but I'm sure it's like a hard thing to cope with.
Yeah.
Like my body feels and looks different than it did before.
Well, and sleep. I mean, I work with so many moms, and after you have a baby, you've just been through kind of a marathon of life. You've grown this person, you've delivered this person, and when I say deliver, I'm talking whether it's cesarean or you adopted your child. There's a variety of ways to give birth to a baby. But that's not a small task. And then when you're so tired and you're just trying to get basic needs met, sex really can drop really low on the priority list because you're kind of like, what is critical to surviving? And everything else is gone.
Yeah.
So that can be a challenge.
It could be a challenge that sex doesn't become a priority anymore. How is that a challenge? Well, obviously I know how it's a challenge. You want to have a great relationship. Somebody's calling me on my computer. So you want to have a great relationship, and sex is an important part of that relationship. But I feel like there's a lot of myths that come into play right after you have a kid.
Yeah.
Can we maybe talk about some of those myths?
I think that's a great way to start.
I've heard rumors that breastfeeding can affect your libido. Is that true?
Well, so go back to when, desire and that whole thing.
Yeah.
You have a whole bunch of hormonal changes going on. So breastfeeding doesn't necessarily have to impact your desire. It can impact vaginal lubrication but it doesn't have to impact your
actual desire. Right? Because we talked about in the last episode, the desire is not something that's necessarily biological. It's more It's more a response to your
incentive system.
Yes, incentive system. Your surroundings. Okay, so just because you're breastfeeding doesn't mean you're not in the mood. It could be the stress of breastfeeding that takes you out.
And there's a lot of other factors to consider, because what we're really looking at, does breastfeeding cause X, Y, or Z? And it's like, I am breastfeeding, but guess what? I'm also up 24/7. I'm also
getting like 30
my
minutes
husband
of sleep
and
a
I
night.
aren't talking. We're not partnering very well. So is it the breastfeeding or is it everything else that's going on around it?
and you just said sleeplessness is a huge thing, and that can definitely impact your desire levels too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, if you're incentivized and someone said, I would like a hot night of sex, or I'm going to give you 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep.
You take the sleep.
It's going to be the sleep.
Oh boy, I'm excited to have kids.
It's so, it is awesome. And I can say, going through it 3 times, we've had to reinvent our sexual relationship and our sexual connection every single time.
Interesting.
Yes.
What about this idea that having a C-section will make it so sex doesn't hurt after you have a baby? Is that
That's
like,
an
I've heard
interesting
some
one.
women kind of talk about that.
So the vagina is amazing because the vagina is it's capacity.
Yeah.
It's a space that can expand, it can contract. But there can be pain from if there's shifts in your uterus, and you've got different things that can happen.
There's a lot going on in there when there's a human inside.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of shifting. You've got pelvic floor. You've got a lot of stuff. So does cesarean necessarily prevent you from pain? I would say you're going to experience different things with your body.
Got it. So let's say, let's do a hypothetical here. Let's say I can't do this because I'm not a woman, but let's say my wife just had a baby. Mm-hmm. And she's feeling completely like, what happened? I used to be horny all the time. I used to like really love sex.
Yes.
And now that I have this baby and I'm experiencing like sleeplessness and I'm breastfeeding and I'm stressed out and I feel like a stranger in my own body, but I still want to have sex with my husband and feel connected. What do you do?
That's a great thing. That's like our show.
Yeah.
Right
so
there.
I'm teeing you up.
That's our show.
This is like T-ball. This is like T-ball, and I'm setting you up for a home run right here. Just hit
right
it.
Out of the park. Let's just do a home run. No, so let me backpedal because I think one of the things is talk about the myth of the 6-week appointment. And so much pressure on that.
Yes.
That's
I have some friends who were just really excited about their 6 weeks being up.
So I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about the fact that depending on how you're feeding your baby, but it doesn't even matter how you're feeding your baby. You're taking care of a human or a second human or a third or a seventh. And when you are being pulled on, tugged on, your nipples are being pulled on, sucked on, there's so much where you're like,
wipe my bum, feed me, clean this up.
I don't want any more touch at all. And then your partner's like, I feel like, so if you are the husband you're talking about with your wife and has a baby, and suddenly you also can feel like you're out on an island, that you don't know where you fit in the equation anymore.
Right.
And
because all of her attention is going to be on the kids.
Yes. And sex might be your way for connection.
I'll definitely be jealous, I think, of my children.
Or that's what we're going to talk about, is how you can really increase your partnership and move away from the whole idea of I'm dying for the 6-week appointment because then I can have sex. No.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
So one of the things when we talk about healthy habits of connection for couples, something that's really big and that couples can do from the moment they have a baby is engage in regular, non-sexual, affectionate touch.
Got it.
Rubbing the feet can be amazing.
Yeah.
Rubbing the calves can be amazing. Rubbing each other's scalps.
Oh, I love a good head scratch.
So good. A hand massage and touching the body in ways that's like, this kind of touch feels really, really good. And it's filling my bucket instead of feeling like another chore or task. Because if sex is like, okay, I've got to clean the bottles, I've got to take the carpool, I've got to do this. Oh, then there's sex.
And I need to shower and feel presentable
gotta brush
and
my teeth.
feel like I look good naked.
Yes.
And no.
If sex is in that camp and it's not, I guess I think of sex during this stage as more restorative, connective, creative, move outside. If you're trying to do sex in the way you were pre-kids,
it's not going to work.
And you haven't had a conversation of, hey, something we need to talk about is I would love to still stay connected to you during a baby. I don't know what this looks like. And you don't know what this looks like. Even if I always say to parents, you've been a parent of one, but you've never been a parent of two. So you're having to have these conversations a lot.
Over and over.
But letting each other know that connection matters. And so how do we do this better and or differently and stay connected? What are the things in our relationship that both of us need to do that? So the intercourse myth. Yes, your doctor's going to clear you to have intercourse.
Do you ever? Oh,
But
sorry.
the
Complete your
doctor's
thought.
not going to clear you. Like at any point, you can give each other all those things like that non-affectionate or the non-affectionate,
Right.
the affectionate.
You always have
non-sexual
permission
touch.
for that.
You always have permission for that.
It's not like you can't touch each other while you're in that 6-week
or
period.
it may be, hey, what can I do for you today that would really just feel like, do you want me? I'm going to go down and I'm going to load up that dishwasher.
Yeah.
Is that something I could do? And increase the partnering.
What can I do to fill your tank?
I love this research because there is research that shows the higher the partnering. And what I mean by that is working together to accomplish the domestic things around the house. The higher the level of the partnering, the better the connection in sex. It's
All right.
Fantastic.
That is a note that I'm sure both men and women will celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incentive to partner.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go do the dishes.
Yeah.
No, like right now. Okay, so I know this is the thought that popped into my mind when you shared this, and I'm sure there are other people who are thinking this as well. But what happens if you get stuck in that mode of like non-sexual touch? Like, what if you're like totally happy to be there and totally happy to like be generous and partner, but it feels like you kind of get isolated in that area and you never really transition out of it?
What do you mean?
Like, what do I mean? I mean, like, what if like you just don't have sex after that? Is it possible to get stuck there?
Yeah.
Does it happen very often?
Absolutely. Because what can start to happen is I've got this whole person that I'm just in love with and that's all I want to do, or that's all I have the capacity to do.
Right.
Tammy Nelson calls it getting stuck in the sweatpants.
Yes, that is what I'm referring to.
I'm so sorry for coughing and being sick.
I'm not even mad. I'm just happy that you're here, and I hope you get feeling better.
I do too. But you can absolutely get stuck. I also want to say that the phase of having a baby. Okay, so I want to dovetail a little bit of postpartum with sex and babies.
Yeah, that's important.
Oftentimes we'll think postpartum is first 6 weeks, 3 months.
What is postpartum?
It's really the first year after having a baby.
Let's explain to somebody who knows very little.
Some people are saying the postpartum period could be up to 18 months. I would even argue that a lot of moms and women aren't getting sleep for until their kids are 5. So you could have 15 years of sleepless nights. So, but the technical postpartum period is a year. So if we're looking at, is there going to be a change in your desire? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to be interested in having your boobs touched as much during that? Maybe not. Because they become pretty utilitarian. Your body parts, pending again how you're feeding your baby, but your body in general becomes pretty utilitarian. It
changes
functional.
Purposes.
Yeah.
The context changes, kind of like what we talked about last episode.
Yes. And so you having some flexibility and creativity and reinventing what your sexual connection and relationship looks like really matters, because the reality is you're in a phase that isn't going to last forever, but is there.
Right.
You are in the postpartum period.
Got it.
The end. Yeah.
So, okay, that makes sense. So be willing to sit in the postpartum period for a while and be okay with it and just partner. The best thing that I could do in my situation is to be an awesome supportive partner
and to seek each other out.
Yeah.
Like having that conversation of, I don't want you to be out just floundering on an island.
Right.
Did you know that 10% of men will experience postpartum depression?
No, I did not know that.
That is something we don't talk about often.
No.
So up to 30% of women are going to experience pregnancy, postpartum mood and anxiety disorder, but up to 10% of men will as well. And men are less likely to reach out and talk to somebody.
Right.
And they can
or probably even to recognize
isolated.
What they're experiencing.
Yes. So
I'll bet a lot of men don't even realize that that's what they could be experiencing.
Yeah. Oh, no, they don't. Because one of the things too is one of the symptoms of postpartum depression is anger. And so it's like, no, I'm not depressed. I'm just angry all the time.
Oh.
But that's a symptom.
Okay.
Right. So I guess I look at this and I know a lot of parents out there create birth plans. Birth plans are a big thing.
So my wife is a nurse and she says anybody who comes into the hospital with a birth plan, it's a guarantee that something's going to go wrong.
I don't agree with that.
Really?
No, I'm a birth planner.
That's like their joke.
But I am a I am prepared for whatever turn my birth may take.
Mm-hmm.
There's flexibility. My goal, I'm a big advocate for the mom and having a birth that allows their child to get there in the healthiest, best way possible. But the plans, something can go wrong, but there also can be, if you talk about it and you're like, this is our plan, and we've thought this through, we've talked with our doctors, we've blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It would be amazing if people did that with their relationship.
Have like a marriage plan post-kid.
Yes. What do we want to do? What are all these new responsibilities going to look like? Some we can predict, some we can't. There's going to be new variables that we can't plan for.
And how do we deal with the ones that we can't plan for when they arise?
Yes. But even if we start saying, hey, we're having a big, exciting new adjustment into our life, I want to stay connected to you.
Give me an example of what that would look like.
Like that conversation?
Yeah.
So go back
what are some important things to address?
I would say, because a lot of people may not have even talked about how they want a partner. Who's going to get up with the baby? Is that going to be every night? Who's going to be responsible for changing diapers?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to handle dinner and meals and meal planning and grocery shopping? This is something I do often with couples, is to think through some of this stuff as much as possible. What do we want to do for our relationship? What does that look like? Do we want to try and have 2 hours where the baby's just laying in the bassinet, or we have someone come over and hold the baby for an hour and we're going to go eat dinner on the back patio because that's all we have?
Mm-hmm.
That's where that kind of the creativity of how, if staying connected is our goal, what's the best way that we can do that, and working collaboratively as a team to come up with things that sounds good. After you have a baby, it might be like, that's hilarious that we thought we could do that.
Right.
But at least you already have something now to have new conversations about.
Got it.
So
I'm assuming with this new added responsibility and kind of just already having this conversation, that communication is going to play a huge role in how your life and your intimacy kind of develops and evolves.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some good things to kind of keep in mind when, having that conversation initially of like, this is how we want a partner going forward. But what about like specifically around sex? Like, what are some things to avoid or some things to maybe
I think getting into the talking about breaking the 6-week barrier and being like, you know what, that's not a thing. I would love to I still want to hold hands. I still want to, those things we were talking about, talk about those things and have that. And then in terms of the sex, and this, I say it and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to explain it, is planning it, scheduling it.
Oh, this is a good conversation to have.
Okay.
Because I got interviewed on another podcast this week, and it was about being a parent. It's called It Takes a Village to Raise a Parent or something like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the questions they asked is like, what do you feel, what's the importance of date nights?
Yep.
And like planning sex and stuff, and are you for it or against it? And I think it's a great idea, especially if you have a crazy busy schedule, because I live and die by my schedule.
Yep.
And if it's on there, it happens. If it's not on there, it doesn't.
Yep.
And when you have a crazy life and you have kids, putting it on there, I think it all depends on the context and the perspective that you take into it.
Yes.
If you look at it like it's a business meeting, it's not going to go very well.
No.
But if you look at it like you look at your calendar and you think, what have I got going on today? And you go, oh, tonight's the night.
Yeah.
You can create all sorts of tension and build up and foreplay and flirting for like 24 hours building up to that point. And it can be the scheduling. It can be a way to like help foster that connection. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
and
kind
it
of where
allows you, because one of the things with the scheduling is you start to have this dance. You have the identity and the persona as the mother, but then it gives you a chance to transition out and get back to you and become the lover. So you're kind of toggling between the mother and the lover, and
it may not be spontaneous.
Well, Hollywood likes us to believe that the best kind of sex that's happening and the right kind of sex that's happening and the hottest sex that is happening is spontaneous.
Is impromptu, like,
that
oh
is
my
not
gosh,
true.
Right now.
Yes, that's not true. That happens in the early stages of our relationship where desire just happens to you, where it falls.
Spontaneous desire.
Yeah, but you like just want each other. You don't even have to work at it. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I see them again. And all you want to do is make out. And all you want to do is touch. You don't have to work at it. once you get out of that particular stage and you're into kind of, Esther Perel talks a lot about this. How do you manage long-term desire?
Yeah.
And planning it allows, here's why I'm a fan of planning it. One, we plan everything in our life. Plan the carpool. We plan
dinner,
piano lessons. We plan dinner. We're planning everything. And like you, people live and die by their planners.
They even plan podcasts.
They plan podcasts, and those things get done. So if we're waiting to have sex, like I cannot tell you how many women after they've had a long day and they're like, oh, I get to go to bed. They lay down and hit their pillow. And then all of a sudden they get a little hand and they're like, no.
I thought I was done.
And what starts to happen though is there can also be the dance of rejection, because you just put the hand on. It's like, are you kidding me right now? That's not going to happen.
Right.
Like, I've just had a long day. I've had a long week. And so exhausted. Then that can start a negative cycle, because it's like, I don't know what I do want you, but I don't know when to initiate. You just barely got to bed. So by planning it, starting to adjust schedules of actually our best times to have sex are in the morning at 6 a.m. or Sunday at noon, something like that. So planning allows for that. So that's one thing. The other plan is who's in charge of initiating. I like that, because initiation can become a challenge.
Yeah.
So there's that piece. But you talked about something, the anticipation, the build up, the tension. I think about this like the crock pot. So go back to when you were dating Ange.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you guys were not hanging out every day.
No.
Because she has a job, you have a job.
Yep.
Like,
she works like long 13-hour shifts. She's a nurse.
So when you start to know, like,
and we weren't living in the same house.
Yeah. So it's Wednesday, and you know you're going to go out with Angie Friday.
Yeah.
How much did you look forward to Friday?
I looked forward to it a lot. There's a lot of build up.
A lot of and you know that something's going to happen Friday. You're going to hang out.
Yeah.
Which means the rest of the time, you don't have to keep checking in.
Not only am I going to hang out, but I might get a kiss on the mouth.
That's right.
Like,
right.
It's a big deal.
So think about this. If it's scheduled, then it's like, okay, I'm planning on it for this week. And then the rest of the time, I don't have to worry about being initiated upon. I don't have to worry about it. So go back to Wednesday. And if you know it's Friday, and you starting Wednesday, you're like, I don't have desire. Going back to the spontaneous versus responsive desire, podcast 2. Going back and being like, okay, I don't feel like having sex, but between now and Friday, what do I need to do to allow myself to be open to this experience? Because probably as we get going and I start to get aroused, then I'm going to want it.
Yep.
That's what scheduling allows, is to start building it up. And if you're not anticipating it, if you're dreading it, you can start to
change the context,
change the narrative that you're having.
Got it. I like that.
Yeah. I like scheduling it. I'm a big fan of that.
Just walking by and going, I can't wait till Friday.
Yes.
It's
or,
like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that can be a thing. And there can be a lot of flirting, and it can just be, you know what, Friday, the other piece is people don't have to have intercourse with their sex dates.
Right.
It can be like, you know what, we're going to Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
And we are going to order takeout, and we are going to, or not naked, we're going to get takeout on paper plates, and like
no dishes
in
no
in
kids.
Bed. And that's what our sex date is going to be for now. And I'm going to rub your feet and you're going to rub mine. If you take off the pressure of this has to be intercourse, you can also pleasure each other in a variety of ways
that are really fulfilling and really connecting and really rewarding.
Yes. As a way to stay connected. And there's all that can go down, which we need to do a podcast on how sex is like dining. We've talked about food before.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
We've talked about food before, but like if I weren't hungry.
Different kinds of sex. Like there's different kinds of restaurants.
Like that. I don't really get hung up on if I'm hungry and want to go out to eat and I'm like, hey, Nate, do you want to go out to eat? And you're like, I'm not really hungry, but I'll join you.
Yeah. For
some reason, when it comes to sex, if I want sex and you don't, there's like a big, then it cannot happen instead of, well, you want it, I don't. What can we make work here?
Yeah.
What can we make work here instead of this all or nothing?
How about you eat and I'll just have dessert?
Right.
Or
we could be eating and you could start having some bites of food and you're like, oh, I'm hungrier than I thought.
Maybe I actually am hungry once I smelled the food.
Yes.
Or there's the whole difference between like stopping at McDonald's to get something, to get a quick $1 Coke.
Oh yeah. Quickies.
or
Postpartum
going
quickies.
or going to the like Ruth's Chris and having like a 4-course meal
Yes.
and like dragging it out over 4 hours.
Postpartum sex, leave room for the quickies. You may be doing and going back to the food analogy, you may be dining on McDonald's
for a while.
Totally good. Like totally fine. The Ruth's Chris, to be honest with you, when you're so tired,
not even worth looking forward to.
3 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour meal. I'm like, no. Just
rub my feet and let me eat my Big Mac and drink my Diet Coke.
Yes.
Got it.
So that's a big thing with postpartum sex is so much is negotiation, to be honest with you. So much in having some flexibility with your
What's the difference between negotiation and compromise?
This is how I see the difference between negotiation and compromise. How are we on? We're good on. Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty good. We got another 5 minutes.
So the way I see negotiation and compromise is negotiation is two people coming to the table with what they want and don't want. And they're starting from that place. Compromise. And that's a healthier place because you are coming from a place of empowerment of, I know what you want. I know what I want.
How can we make it work for both of us?
How do we make this win-win? That's what I see negotiation being is how do we make this win-win? Not tit for tat, not scorekeeping, but how do we work this through so that compromise I often see with my couples is giving up a part of yourself that often breeds resentment, shutting down, and disconnect, like final compromise. Because if that gets us out of a fight, yes, because there's places in negotiation. There's places that I'm willing to they don't matter as much. And there's other things that matter a lot. And so if I negotiate, I can let go of the things that don't matter as much and hold on to the things I do want. And we can usually find something that works for both of us.
Right.
Which takes that vulnerability and communication piece. That's hard stuff.
It's really hard. I am amazed by how many people, actually, I was having a conversation today about this, about how a lot of people believe that they have a great relationship because they don't fight. And I feel like not fighting is not a good sign of your relationship. I feel like a lot of the time, if you're not fighting, it just means that one person is accommodating or one person is like they're what's the word I'm looking for?
Placating?
Yeah, like placating the other person.
I just barely talked about this actually over the weekend. A healthy relationship isn't the absence of conflict and abuse and just keeping the peace.
Yeah.
It's the proactive attempts to make your relationship great, foster connection, and support each other.
Definitely.
We're blowing up.
Yeah, both of us. So I just think there's something special about a couple who can lean into the conflict when it's healthy conflict.
Yeah.
And when it's like, I respect that you want something different than what I want right now. And maybe we can work together and we both won't get everything that we want, but we can both get as much of what we want as we can.
Yeah. And I would say the takeaways for today, have realistic expectations around pregnancy and postpartum sex. It's going to be different.
That's the word I was looking for.
Accommodating. Yeah.
Like it's not, yeah. Anyway.
I'd say regular, understanding the expectations.
Yeah.
Talk about a relationship plan. As much as you're doing a birth plan, talk about it. Even if it's super loose, do it at dinner. Have some flexibility in your negotiation. Don't focus on the 6-week appointment as the only time when you can start touch.
Focus on non-sexual touch, affection. What else? Set an appointment. Do we talk about?
Schedule the sex. And there's a lot more. A lot of these pieces, you can really go into depth and learn more about it.
And remember that your libido has less to do with your biology and more to do with the context of your life. So like not having sleep, being touched all the time, being
so
high
many
demand,
hormones
stressed out,
fluctuating.
hormones.
Like if you stop breastfeeding, hormone change. When your milk comes in, hormone change. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah. So
when you get your period again, just so many things. Yeah. So you're constantly having to reinvent, which is why talking is so important. And so I think if you can remember those few things, that can really change postpartum sex.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's helpful. Once again, we have an awesome guide. If you want to go download a guide about how to have better sex and have these conversations, you just go to the Loveumentary, Loveumentary.com for this episode. It's episode 3 of this season. You can find stuff more about Kristin at KristinBHodson.com. She has a gift, how to talk to your kids about sex. If you go to KristinBHodson.com/gift, you can enter your email address and get a really cool book. Is there anything else you want to plug? Anything you got coming up?
So.
Next week's episode, I believe we're talking about lube.
Lube and
vibrators.
Yes.
And we're going to do it very tastefully.
Absolutely.
And
so important.
Yeah. So
it'll
would love it if you join
really
us.
nice actually for our postpartum sex.
Great.
Lube is very important.
It will be, we'll talk Tuesday at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yep.
I know we one thing that maybe we'll talk about it next time or sometime soon. I know last episode we said we'd talk about pelvic floor health.
Oh, pelvic floor health.
And we didn't really talk about that. Do you want to talk about it really quick right now, or should we save it for another episode?
I'll just quickly say that pelvic floor, we talked about the strength of your orgasms are related to your pelvic floor. When you have a baby, and I'm not a reproductive physical therapist and I'm not a doctor, so I'm speaking this paraphrasing.
Right.
But your pelvic floor gets weakened. So
there's a lot going on down there. So
yeah. So restoring your pelvic floor and learning how to strengthen those muscles again is directly tied to your sexual health. So one of the best recommendations in terms of sexual health is checking in with a reproductive physical therapist, because they are they're allowed and trained to do internal exams and can help. And if you're having sexual pain postpartum, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm getting into this.
You're good.
But if you're having sexual pain, don't push through. I think we talked about this.
Stop.
Go get some help.
Yeah.
But a reproductive physical therapist is who you'd want to check out.
If you're experiencing pain when you're having sex, something is wrong, and
yes.
you should seek help.
And after a baby in particular, if you're experiencing pain, and you're wondering all about, like, I'm peeing my pants and all these different things, go see a reproductive physical therapist.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. That's a good footnote.
Okay.
Hope to see you guys next week. Thanks for
right.
tuning in.
Thanks. Bye.